This is the notes for review day 1 of chapter 4. First thing that we're looking at is how to do the ones where you have to just say which theorem would you use. So it says state the postular theorem you'd use to prove each pair of triangles congruent. If the triangles cannot be proven congruent, write not enough information. So these are the options we know. These are the options we can use. Okay, we have side, 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 side angle, side. We have ASA, we have AAS, we have hypotenuse leg, and then we have NEI, not enough information. Okay, before you decide on these, make sure you add anything to the picture that you're allowed to. So vertical angles are always congruent. So if it looks like a bow tie, you can always do this. Okay, then look at one of the triangles and see what you have. I have 3 pairs of things. So I have a side, an angle, and another pair of sides. Since the angle is in between the pair of sides, the answer for this one would be side, angle, side. Okay, second one. Are the triangles congruent? If so, state how. Make sure you add whatever you're allowed to the picture. Okay, I can do reflexive property because this side is a shared side, so it's the same as itself. They gave me a pair of angles. So I have 1 pair of angles, 1 pair of sides. I need 3 things, and I only have 2 things. I can't figure out anything else because there's no more vertical angles or no more reflexive property to be done. So I only have 2 things, and all my abbreviations are 3 letters long. This one is not enough information. Third one, be careful. A lot of people like to say that this is side, 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 okay, because we can get reflexive property right here. Okay, this is congruent to itself. Okay. However, people think that the top and bottom, these arrows mean something that it doesn't. These don't mean congruent. Those mean parallel. So I don't have congruent sides here. So this is not side, side, side. I don't know that the left is congruent to the right or the top is congruent to the bottom. So I have 1 pair of sides and that's it so far. But since I have parallel, that's kind of been the hint to look at alternate interior angles like those blue ones. Those blue ones are alternate interior. Same with these ones I'm making green. The top of the bottom corner, okay, and then the bottom of the upper right up here. Okay. The green ones are alternate interior, the blue ones are alternate interior. I can do that since the picture was marked with parallel. So the correct answer for this one is I have a pair of angles here, a pair of sides in between, and another pair of angles. This is ASA. So that one's kind of a tricky one, so just pay attention to ones like that. Okay. 14, we can do reflexive property. It's kind of a weird one, okay? But what's happening here is I have a triangle here, okay? I'll just make this the blue triangle. Then I'll make this one the green triangle. We want to know if the blue one and the green one are congruent, okay? Well, I have a pair of sides marked congruent here and here. I have a pair of angles marked congruent. And I have a side that I wrote on twice. That'll be this one right here. It's got to be congruent to itself, reflexive property. So I have a pair of sides. So let's just look at the green triangle again. I'll cover it in red. I have a pair of sides. I have an angle in between. And I have another pair of sides. So this is SAS. Okay. Be careful with side, angle, side. Make sure your side or your angle is in the correct place. So I have angles right here. They gave me a pair of sides, top and bottom. I can get reflexive property. Okay, so I have 2 pairs of sides and 1 pair of angles congruent. However, the angles are not in the right spot. Okay, the angle would need to be here between, but I don't have that. So what I have right now is ASS or SSA, which doesn't work. So this is not enough information. All right, moving on. These ones, okay, where it says, if pig is congruent to cow, what are the corresponding parts? Okay, what that's talking about is P is the first letter, C is the first letter, so I know that angle P has to be congruent to angle C. Okay, I know that angle I has to be congruent to angle O. I know that angle G has to be congruent to angle W. So the letters are in corresponding order. I just need to pair them up. Same thing with segments. So I know that PI has to be congruent to CO. I know that IG has to be congruent to OW. I know that PG has to be congruent to CW. So you're picking 2 letters at a time and putting them in the same orders. Okay, this one says, what additional piece of information, okay, do we need to be able to use the congruence postulate that's provided? So they're going to tell you which one we want to use, and they're going to tell you what do you still need. So I want to use side angle side for this one. They gave me a pair of sides, so that's good. I have 1 pair of sides. I can get a pair of angles for free with vertical, so I need 1 more pair of sides. So to answer the question, what pair of sides do I need? I would need the pair of sides that gives me the angle in the middle. So I would need this side to be congruent to this side, because then the angles are in the middle where they should be. So I need the blue stuff. So I need EJ needs to be congruent to GJ. Okay, second one, I want to use angle side. I have some right angles that are going to be congruent, so I have 1 pair of angles. So it looks like I'm going to need another pair. That's probably going to be my answer. Okay, I can get reflexive property for free, congruent to itself. So I need 1 more pair of angles. The trick with this one is there's more than one answer. So I would need maybe like the bottom of A to be congruent to the top of Q. So it could be angle DAQ needs to be congruent to angle, so I started with D, so FQA. I'm going to write, or there's another answer here this time. I could have chosen the top of A and the bottom of Q. So I could also need DQA congruent to FAQ. Either one of those would work. Okay, I just need 1 more pair of angles. That's all that I would care about. All right, let's talk about the proofs. One thing that this one does a little bit differently is notice that they split up the given. There's 2 parts to the given, and they put them into 2 different steps. Step 1, step 3. Okay, I would mark the stuff that they say is congruent. So they said D is congruent to F. Okay. Anytime you see the word bisect in a given, you need to use that. So what's happening here is DEF is getting cut in half. That's this angle right there. So DEF is getting cut in half. So the top of E and the bottom of E, that's what I have named already right here. So this is just definition of bisect. They're congruent to each other because that angle E is getting bisected, which means cut in half. Step 4 says GE congruent to GE. That's right here. So that's congruent to itself. Well, that's reflexive property. And then step 5 is why are they congruent? So look at just one triangle and see what you have. Okay. So I have on this triangle, I have 2 pairs of angles, angle, angle, and then a side. The side is not connecting the 2 angles, so this is angle, angle, side instead of ASA, angle, side, angle. One thing for you to remember for proofs for the test, when you're looking at what you're supposed to prove, are you proving triangles or are you proving something else? If you're proving something else, you have to use CPCTC to get that thing. So we'll come back to that idea, but let's just start by putting the stuff in the given that needs to be. So AE cuts DC in half, okay? And I'll just write it above here. C is also congruent to D. We're going to put all the givens into 1 at first. Okay, so I know that angle C congruent to angle D. Okay? Let's use the bisect step right away just to get that done with. So AE cuts DC in half. So here's DC. It's getting cut in half, which means DB and CB have to be congruent. DB has to be congruent to CB. Okay, this is bisector. Definition, bisector. Okay? We can also get a pair of angles here with vertical. So either side of B has to be congruent because of vertical angles. So vertical angle theorem. So steps 2 and 3 could have been reversed for this proof. So we have angle ABD would have to be congruent to angle EBC. And then if you look at what we have angle, side, and angle in both of these triangles. So I'm able to say the triangles are congruent, and this is where we stop a lot of the time. We just haven't gotten to the part that they asked us to prove yet. So we just have a little bit more to do. That's all. So I wanted to prove A is congruent to E. Well, now I know that they have to be congruent because the triangles are congruent and they're corresponding parts. So corresponding parts of congruent triangles have to be congruent. So if you notice right away in your proof that you're proving something that's something other than triangles, that's your clue to use CPCTC. All right, last proof. Feel free to pause the video and try to go ahead of me. Okay, we have the given split one more time, so that's step 1, and again in step 4. Okay, they didn't give us much else. Okay, so they told us that A and D are right angles. That's these two. Okay, why are they right angles? That's because of this symbol here, which means perpendicular. So this is the definition of perpendicular. Okay, then why is A congruent to D? Well, they're both boxes. They're both 90 degrees. They have to be congruent because they're 90 degrees each. All right angles are congruent. Okay, so I have one pair of congruent angles. The red one's up there. Okay, now C is the midpoint of BE. That's the other given. So here's BE. I know that C is in the middle of those, which means BC is the same as EC. Or BC is the same as CE, so they might have something in the wrong order there. So anyways, they're saying, that's exactly what they're saying over here. The reason they're saying that is because C is in the middle, and that's the definition of midpoint. So just like with bisector, if midpoint is in the given, you're going to use definition of midpoint. Okay, then look at what they say next. ACB, that's this angle, and ECD, that's this angle. Why are they congruent? Because they are vertical angles. VAT. So that brings us to the last step. Why are the triangles congruent? Again, I have two pairs of angles and a pair of sides. The pair of sides is not in between the pair of angles, so we have AAS. Okay, that's it for day 1. So on the practice test, you're going to do numbers 1 through 18 and numbers 24 through 28. This is all due Thursday. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and get to work on your practice test.